All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock, and so we will begin tonight's meeting of the special business meeting of the Redevelopment Commission of New Bern. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Assistant City Attorney, Jamie Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Interim Director. Good evening, members of the Commission. Your first order of business tonight is actually to do a roll call. And in the absence of the chair and vice chair, after we establish a quorum, I will lead you in your discussion to elect a presiding officer for this meeting. So I think Mr. Huff is going to do our roll call tonight.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Commissioner Bryant.
Present.
Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Commissioner Proctor.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Strickland. Commissioner Parham.
Here.
Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
Madam Attorney, we have quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huff. And for purposes of the record, we'll reflect that Alderman Royal is here as well as Alderman Prill. Members of the Commission, your chair, Chair Lee, is not present for tonight's meeting and is unavailable, as is your vice chair. So in order for your meeting to move forward, you need to select a person from among you to lead, to preside over tonight's meeting. That is not a chair going forward, but for purposes of tonight's meeting, you need a presiding officer. The duties of that officer will include maintaining the decorum for this evening's meeting, managing the means and modes of the meeting, as well as ruling on procedural issues such as motions. If anyone is interested or would like to make a nomination for a presiding officer for tonight's meeting, you may do so at this time.
I nominate Beth Walker.
I second.
Okay, we have a nomination that I guess we'll caption as a motion and a second.
Yes.
Are there any other nominations?
Make it nominate.
Hearing none, there's a motion to appoint Beth Walker as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting, as well as a second. Are there any questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Walker will be the presiding officer for tonight's meeting, and I'll hand the reins over to you, Ms. Walker.
Well, thank you. Tonight's meeting has a robust agenda, so we will get started. I'll give you an introduction. Just for the record, the New Bern Redevelopment Commission is a public body appointed by the Board of Aldermen of the City of New Bern. It is a public body governed by the North Carolina General Statutes, and in particular, the open meetings laws. Tonight's meeting is a special called meeting, meaning it is a meeting held outside of our normal, regular schedule of meetings, and as such, the Commission may only discuss and act on items indicated on the special meeting notice published on Monday. Everyone received the notice and the agenda? Okay. We'll go to the first agenda item then. The next item on the Commission's agenda is to consider adopting a resolution requesting to convey, our agenda says 908 Bloomfield Street, but I want to make sure that everybody knows it is the properties, 3 properties that make that property together. All 3 of those properties back to the City of New Bern, along with the balance of allocated funds of $350,000. I want to ask that all of you commissioners receive a copy of the proposed resolution.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome.
Pardon my tardiness.
Don't let it happen again.
Are we being
Yeah.
recorded?
Yeah.
I'll save my comment.
All right, and if you, we also receive copies of the backup documents in the agenda package. And with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Commissioner Wallace. You have been presenting this information to us. However, I will say that Commissioner Bryant did an excellent job in your absence last meeting.
Thank you very much.
So if you will give us an explanation of this item, please.
Okay. Well, we wanted to adopt the resolution from the board to request that the Board of Aldermen consider taking the ownership of the property on Bloomfield Street, properties on Bloomfield Street to construct the Health and Wellness Center consistent with the drafted plans provided by the Commission. The Commission would also need to propose a same time to convey it back to the city, the remaining funds of $350,000, which they so graciously sent to us to get this project done. The resolution is actually on the back of your documentation. Do I need to read that out for the resolution?
No, sir, you don't
Okay.
have to read the resolution verbatim since it's been circulated and posted on the website if you don't feel the need to.
Okay, all right. And just wanted to say for the record, the city was extremely gracious in assisting us on in this endeavor, a little bit on the historical perspective. We started this journey externally with a bunch of partners, and I know it's some that's on the commission, and I need to get that documentation to the full plan. And as we went on this journey, as we talked to the city leaders, this, pathway forward actually came to fruition. And I think this is the best way moving forward, as long as we have the conveyance and the guarantees that we've already discussed. So I'll open up for questions.
Questions? And you said you're open for questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. You said you talked with the city leaders, but I wasn't privy to the information. So could you just give me some details on how you arrived at this desire to do this?
Okay, initially, we started out trying to do it all ourselves, again, externally with partners, and we had an avenue that we can go out, doing it ourselves again, and bidding it out and getting schematics from architects and this and that. And once we talked with the city, we were briefed by the great experience they have with the Pleasant Hill community center out there, pretty much the same thing that we're doing. And the city had all of the resources and faculties to actually get it done in a quicker time frame, so we can break ground a lot faster. We had the money, we had everything going on, and we even started with the programmatic functions of it, which you attended some of the health and wellness meetings, so you're privy to that information. But this was a pathway forward that would expedite this process.
Thank you.
And I want to say, Alderman Royal, I'm thankful to the city, Mr. Foster and the others that were involved in it, that actually gave us the guidance moving forward.
Any other questions or discussion at this time, commissioners?
So, and before I make the motion, I will say, I have documented all concerns as far as the programmatic functions moving forward, and I will be steadfast in making sure that those are adhered to, making sure, that we resolve all of those concerns. So at this time, if there's no more questions, I make the motion to adopt the resolution as stated.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion among the commissioners about this motion?
And Madam Presiding Officer, just for the sake of clarity, Mr. Wallace, is your motion to adopt a resolution to convey the lots located on Bloomfield Street to the City of New Bern, along with the balance of the $350,000 previously allocated for the Health and Wellness Center?
Yes.
Mr. Parham, was that your second?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And being that there's no further discussion, I would like to call for a roll call vote. That again?
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Parham?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. The next agenda item is the discussion regarding the house that we have recently rehabilitated at 911 Eubanks Street. And the discussion is to give staff direction on how to proceed with this. And I'm going to let you talk about that, Mr. Parham, since you were the one who, well, the habitat,
gotcha.
well, let me just, I'll
Okay.
fill that. It was 9/11, at our last meeting, we discussed the possibility of donating the house to Habitat.
Right.
And would they be interested, would they be capable of taking this, and that would satisfy our CDGB requirements.
Right, okay.
So, you were gonna speak with them like the next day.
Yeah. Can you take the lead, because you did most of the talking at the meeting. But the acting executive director that I met with Habitat, Tracy, Lily, executive director, and we explained to them that we have a house, this particular house, and that because they handle the affordable housing, and that's what Habitat does, and we felt like it might be a good idea to just present it to them. At their executive meeting and also their board meeting, that information was shared with them. I think the majority of the board members thought it might be a good idea, but the stipulation is there's a possibility that they would love to have the house, but because Habitat tends to push towards groups, not just a house on one street, and want to do it they like to put 3 or 4 houses together.
Cluster
So they have
development.
more of an impact for the neighborhood, just put this in one house. So there's 3 lots across the street from the Eubanks house. And their idea would be to, if they were allowed to have the house, they would also like to have the property also, so they could do 2 more houses. 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom, I think it is.
Correct.
And if they could do that, then they would be willing to take the house. At first, the person that's responsible for interviewing and placing applicants in homes wasn't sure whether or not the 1-bath, 2-bedroom would work. But the other idea is that it could possibly be affordable to a military person that was retired that needed affordable housing. So and that's where we are. So now, like I said, their idea is if they take the house, they meet the requirements for housing, would the city be willing, the redevelopment commission or the city, I guess the city actually has now, to give them the properties across the street so they can do 2 more homes.
Okay, and so those are the 2 properties across the street that the city owns right now?
I think it's not, I think it's the city.
Is it city county or?
Currently, it is 3 parcels, and all 3 parcels are county city owned.
It's kind of
Okay.
The 3 properties across, 2 of them are owned by the Redevelopment Commission, and one of them is a county city
Okay.
owned
That's
property.
Okay,
Okay.
so we do own the 2 of
Two of them,
them.
Yes, ma'am.
So that sounds like an additional requirement is, in terms of us making a decision tonight, is it possible that we can make the decision to convey the house to Habitat and discuss in the future the land? Or is that all part of it right now? We need to discuss the land conveyance since it really wasn't on our agenda.
It probably needs to be more information presented to us by the city attorney and by senior staff as to what we can do with the property, or if we can actually give them the property, and how that would work. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Parham. So because this meeting was noticed, or this item was noticed for a discussion and to give staff direction, you can reflect upon the information that you've received from Habitat. Perhaps you would like to invite Habitat to come and make a presentation to you all about what their vision for this cluster might look like. As far as your ability to convey property to Habitat, you certainly have that statutory authority. You can donate it, you can sell it. I think generally Habitat's model, at least here in Craven County, has been to receive land donated to them for development. So for the vacant lots, if that's something that you have an appetite for, you can give staff direction to explore how to make that opportunity come to light. And as far as the mechanics of what the relationship might look like with 911 Eubanks, the lot that is developed, perhaps you could direct staff to invite Habitat or to take steps to move forward with the conveyance to Habitat if that's your prerogative.
So at this meeting, it is for us to determine if we have a consensus to move forward with having staff work on this transfer of the house to Habitat and what that might entail, what it might further entail.
Yes, ma'am, the house to Habitat, and if you're so inclined to have conversations with the city, for them to facilitate conversations with the county about their appetite to convey the vacant parcels to Habitat as well.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to, if it's in my, if I can do this, I would like for staff, city staff to work with the acting executive director to pursue other information and to make a decision on what can and can't be done, then bring it back to us.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we'll let Habitat know where we are. Yeah, and the idea of Habitat doing the presentation would be a good idea.
That is good.
But let us find out what we can and can't do first,
Okay.
and then we'll get with Habitat, because you don't want to bring them in and give a presentation. So that's kind of a good idea. Is that okay, Madam President?
That is.
Okay.
And any commissioners, any further discussion about that? Are we in agreement?
But
Is it-
we're in agreement, but can I have comment?
Yes, please.
This is what we're here for, right?
Mhm.
Like, we're actually redeveloping, you see what I'm saying? We're
Right.
making strides into that.
Right.
So I just want to say thank you to the one who took the ball and ran with it, and to all that that assisted in this manner. I mean, this is awesome.
Madam,
And it does seem to fit, it fits with our goals of
Yep.
providing housing. Those 2 lots that we did procure across the street, you know, the conversation has been, if any money was left over from the ARF funds from Alderman Astor, that they could go to developing those lots. So if Habitat develops them in the same form, you know, that we were planning on, I think that's a win-win.
It is a
It is.
awesome.
Okay.
so am I to understand from staff perspective that we have a consensus for me to move forward with conversations with Habitat and to get direction from the city as far as what our purview and powers be in developing and conveying this land and the
Yes,
house?
I believe that is correct. Do we need to have all in favor say aye?
No, ma'am, direction is sufficient, so I'm seeing, I think at least 3, 4 heads shaking yes.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Morgan is shaking his head yes, Ms. Proctor, I see 2, 4, 6 heads shaking yes, so I think that's consensus. So I think Mr. Huff is going to reach out to Habitat and collaborate with city staff to include our community and economic development manager to make sure that all the CDBG implications are dealt with appropriately, and we'll come back to you at the next regular meeting with an update.
And I should have asked this question before we all reach consensus, but I think I know the answer. The lots that belong to the redevelopment commission can be conveyed
Yes, ma'am.
in any way that we want to. We don't have to do the upset bid process, correct? We can just convey them.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So if you want to sell those lots, you must use, reflecting back on the chart that I provided, you have to use one of those mechanisms outlined on the chart. If you would like to donate or convey the property with no money exchanging hands consistent with Habitat or whatever nonprofit's public purpose, then you can do that directly without having to go through an upset bid or advertisement process.
Okay.
Does it matter if they're on the surplus property list? I don't know if they are, I'm just asking, does that matter?
That is also a good point, Ms. Proctor. So if they are not, your first order of business would be to determine that they are sellable, which you can do in a 2-step process. You can evaluate those lots, determine that they can be conveyed, and then subsequently convey them to the grantee of your choice.
Now, we'll tell you, in our meeting, Habitat Director and the board, executive board, they were excited about this, but very clear, they said, if you got excess lots and they in the flood zone, don't come see us.
Right.
It's just, yeah, we don't want no flood zone lots. So we need to think about those, what we can do with those eventually, somewhere down the road.
Right.
Okay?
And this is a nice area. That's why we put the 9/11,
Right.
the house there in the
Yeah.
first place.
It would definitely be an improvement.
So, Mr. Hall, back to you. Yes, consensus to move forward with that, just like you stated it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And the next agenda item, I think, is for me to discuss, and that is the Jones Street project. The housing work group has been working to put together specifications for lot development, for the house requirements, so that the city can advertise it and bid it through their processes. And I believe we talked about this at our last meeting, but I think the problem was we never came to a consensus on that. Never had a direction for staff to move forward with that. So the process hasn't, I mean, the three houses that we voted on and the lot divisions and everything still stands. It's really just involving the city staff to do the bid process instead of us trying to do that ourselves. And I think the reason we're discussing it tonight is we didn't come to a conclusion at our last meeting. So I'd like to wrap that up and open it up for discussion. If anyone has any questions about that? No questions?
Onward.
Well, my question in terms of providing staff direction is that placing that on you, Mr. Huff, to work with the purchasing department? Or do I left a message and asked for some clarity of what kind of documents they were going to need from us.
Sure.
And being in the industry, I felt like it was a good thing for me to be able to provide them. I just want to make sure the city has everything they need. So I haven't heard back from Lori Cologne, and that's who I left a message with, but she'll probably be back with me in a day or so.
To my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this direction would just be for me to help the work group in the work that they're already doing. So
Okay.
your call to Ms. Cologne was perfect, and I can help you follow up, or just keep me in the loop, and
Okay.
we'll push the ball along as long as we have consistent consensus with the commission.
Okay. And are we just doing a head nodding vote again? Do we have consensus to move the bid process to the city for these three houses on Adjourn Street?
We also, I'm sorry, we also have to ask the Board of Aldermen if the city would be willing to do the upset bid for process for us.
Okay.
Is that correct?
The competitive bidding process.
Yeah, the actual competitive bid process for the builders. Okay.
So if that's the consensus to request that the city, formally request at this point, for the city to assist in the facilitating the competitive bid process for the Jones Street properties, I'm seeing a couple heads nod yes. Says thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
see all the heads nodding yes. So there's consensus to give Mr. Huff direction to iron out those mechanics with the city and report back to you at your next meeting.
All right. Yes, Alderman Pell.
If I could just interject one comment on this topic. As another option for you to consider is whether you might want to engage in a discussion with Habitat. They have the capabilities of building these small homes on the Jones Street property. So as an option, rather than the city getting involved in bidding out the construction of these small homes, Habitat might be able to do it as well in a much more expedited fashion. So it's just a thought for you to consider, as part of this discussion.
And now, I will say, but if you're saying Habitat build them, but the city can keep them and then sell them, it's,
No, the city would.
Right, if you had-
Habitat were involved, the city would not be
right,
involved.
the Habitat would own them.
Habitat would
Habitat would
own
own,
them,
yeah, just want to make sure, I'm gonna make
There
sure.
would
that's
need to
clear.
be a process to
Right.
essentially, I guess, convey the properties to Habitat
Right.
for them to build and sell and/or rent.
Yeah. Now, I can't speak for the whole board of Habitat, but my feeling is, if we have a developer, someone that's ready to go and do the job, I think that might be the best way to go, because right now we're doing maybe 3 homes a year, maybe 4. We're hoping to get up to maybe 5, 6 homes a year. And with us trying to move forward, I wouldn't want the redevelopment commission to go into partnership with someone that can do it but can't do it in a timely manner. We're still pushing to get things done in a timely manner to show that the redevelopment commission is real. So,
And to that
Yeah.
effect, you're right, Commissioner Parham,
Yeah.
this is the money that the alderman approved for
yeah,
Alderman Astor to give to the redevelopment commission to have a project move forward quickly, and that was I believe it's about $575,000. So we've been very careful to budget the houses, the site work and everything, and work with some builders to make sure it was in that budget so that we could do a competitive bid for them. And that was the goal, is to use that ARF money from Alderman Astor.
All right.
I don't think we'd be able to use that if it was a Habitat project.
but if Habitat had the money, we take all of your lots. We take every lot in the city, but, you know, that's kind of,
The concern that I guess I'm trying to express is that getting the city involved may add a little more complication to the process instead of streamlining it, whereas talking to Habitat and asking them whether they have the capabilities of moving
Understand.
forward on this in an expedited fashion, it can't hurt to ask. They might turn around and say, no, we don't, or they might say, yes, we can do that. And they could get it done quicker than the city can. So just something to think about and talk about as you're considering, what process you want to go through on this.
and it's not a bad idea because the 6, 7 houses on the other side of that street are Habitat homes.
Yes, they
correct?
are.
Yeah, and it will be another big part of that community. But, I think we're in a spot where if we can get someone to come on board and start moving things, I think we'll see who can get on faster and do the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Madam Presiding Officer, in the spirit of being helpful, generally when the city and county have conveyed properties to Habitat in the past, we do so subject to a transfer and reversion agreement that sets out a time frame for them to complete projects. Off the top of my head, I don't want to say what it is because I may misquote it, but if you had some inclination to convey these lots to Habitat or any other nonprofit organization consistent with that same type of mission, you also could do so subject to a transfer and reversion agreement that requires them to begin construction within a certain period of
Right.
time.
Okay.
In the essence of us moving forward, would it also be a good time, because as you mentioned with Habitat, they like to have the clusters. I've also noticed that some general contractors, when they come into an area and they don't want to do single projects, they would like to do some of those also in the clusters. Would this be a good time to investigate what the city does own in a cluster that's not in the flood zone, so that maybe we could prepare, not for the next project, but get ready to maybe take some bids on some clusters as it relates to some general contractors where we don't have to be the engineer, the architect, and let them bid amongst themselves if the city does have certain clusters that are not in the flood zone? I guess my question is, would this be a good time to try to investigate some of those instances and some of those possibilities?
It is, and as we've been working, within our development commission to do that, that's a good point to, revisit some of that, look at where we have land already together. I know we have several places where we put some lots together. And this was kind of the starter one of those, that we've been planning to do these 3 lots together. And you're correct, one contractor building all 3 houses would be the fastest and most desirable way for a developer to do it. Even a home builder. I know the contractor that we used at 911 Eubanks would be interested in bidding that, as 3 houses at one time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So, to move forward with staff, we did take a turn in our consensus building discussion. And do we want to still move forward with talking to the purchasing office and seeing the requirements for getting this bid as the three projects as we have it?
Yeah.
Is that where we still are? Nodding of
Yes.
heads? Okay.
Okay.
Then we will work, probably you and I will be working on that, Mr. Hoff.
I look forward to it,
Okay.
Madam Presiding Officer.
Thank you.
Hey, can I ask one quick thing? Commissioner Parham,
Yeah.
can you actually have some dialogue with Habitat and maybe future, considering what Alderman Creel just stated to us, to see what our options are with Habitat moving forward?
Yeah, I can email you out before the week's over, either Monday or Tuesday, and I'll be at Habitat in the morning.
Okay, thank you so
So we'll
much.
just kind of share what we've discussed here.
Right.
To see if it's something I do. I mean, I can speak, but I can't speak for
For
Habitat.
the board, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Until I share all the information with you.
okay,
Right.
all right, thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right. Well, thank you. We have covered the items on our agenda. If there's no further discussion, can I get a
One more
motion?
thing, Ben, before you adjourn.
Yeah.
All right. This was a very enlightening, informative process. Since our last meeting, I've had some conversations with my commissioners. And I just want to say our network is our net worth, okay? We have people on this commission that has different expertise in different areas, and they all contributed to the final product that was issued tonight. I just want to say thank you for all the conversations, to the ones I've had, and I couldn't have done it without those conversations, I'll tell you that, get to where we are today. So I just wanted to thank my fellow commissioners.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Wallace.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Did you say no? Oh, no, I was like, what?